A very good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News on TV1 here at News First. Today is the 12th of April 2023. For the News First team, I am Jayama Ratnayaka. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Sri Lanka open to consider debt for nature swap to overcome crisis. 5 million rupees goes missing from central bank safe. Police investigation underway. University teachers decide to call off strike and return to work. However, will not engage in papermarking. FUTA says they will not tolerate the government's failure to address the legitimate demands. Sri Lankans ready to welcome Sinhala and Tamil New Year. However, concerns mount over a business mafia.
Yes, at the rupial desiasu go to other rupial haisia panat other avigenakot ekat pattamui.
Special task force deployed to track concealed stocks of eggs. Sri Lanka announces squad for first test against Ireland in Galle.
In tonight's top story, the Apostolic Nuncio to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Archbishop the Most Reverend Brian Udegwe, raised concerns with regard to the Easter attacks probe and the proposed anti-terror law.
The Apostolic Nuncio to Sri Lanka said more needs to be done to serve justice over the Easter attacks of 2019.
Yes, there are people who did the thing, who did the attacks, and people, those who might have been behind it. I have met with political leaders, different political leaders in Colombo. They always give assurance that they are doing their best, but the church just worries that if at all the best is being done, the best has not yielded the best fruit. So I wouldn't say that nothing is done, but it has not yielded the fruit that is desired because those behind or those who did the thing have not really completely been pointed out.
The Apostolic Nuncio to Sri Lanka also commented on the proposed Anti-Terrorism Act.
We had a briefing at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Monday, 2 days ago. That was also mentioned that it is still under study. But from what we understand, it is like something that needs to be well studied. The government had talked a lot about abolishing PTA. Then this one came up. They may have their reasons, but those reasons we have not yet very well understood.
The Apostolic Nuncio to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Archbishop the Most Reverend Brian Udegwe, visited Kandy to meet with the Mahanayaka Theoros of the Askiri and Malpatu chapters. His Excellency Archbishop the Most Reverend Brian Udegwe also visited the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy.
Sri Lanka's central bank governor says that the country is open to consider the option of a debt to nature swap if a request is made. He made these comments to Reuters in Washington, D.C.
When asked if the country would consider debt for nature swaps for all its overseas creditors, Veera Singh said that, quote, those are useful and relevant financial instruments, unquote, though the country's main goal is to complete the debt rework process as soon as possible. The central bank chief added, quote, if creditors said they would like to have those instruments, that it can be done within the timeline and do it fast, we are open, end quote.
What is a debt for nature swap?
This is a concept recently introduced by the International Fund. This is further detailed in a blog produced on the 14th of December 2022 by IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva along with Marcus Shamon and Vimal Thakur. Debt for climate swaps and debt for nature swaps seek to free up fiscal resources so that governments can improve resilience without triggering a fiscal crisis or sacrificing spending on other development priorities. Creditors provide debt relief in return for a government commitment to, say, decarbonize the economy, invest in climate-resilient infrastructure, or protect biodiverse forests or reefs. Debt for nature swaps are typically a voluntary transaction in which an amount of debt owed by a developing country government is cancelled or reduced by a creditor in exchange for the debtor making financial commitments to conservation. More countries are considering them following recent agreements in Barbados, Belize and Seychelles. In 2017, the Seychelles became the first country to successfully undertake a debt for climate swap aimed at specifically protecting the world's oceans. The government of Seychelles will repay the loans to a specifically created Seychelles Conservation and Climate Adaptation Trust. The private donor funding will also go to the trust, which will, in return, conserve 13 marine protected areas that cover more than 85% of the coral reefs and shallow waters in Seychelles.
The managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, said that it is important for everyone to come together to do their part to overcome the crisis in Sri Lanka. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, in a meeting with State Minister Shehan Semasinghe, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Weerasinghe and Treasury Secretary M. Siriwardena, noted that the IMF will continue to support Sri Lanka at its difficult times. The meeting took place on the sidelines of the IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe noted that Sri Lanka has reaffirmed its commitment to complete the IMF bailout program. He said that Sri Lanka will also implement its ambitious reform agenda to achieve debt sustainability and restore economic stability. He had reiterated Sri Lanka's dedication at this historic time to build a prosperous country with the support and trust of its international partners by building on the lessons learned from the crisis. The State Minister had expressed his gratitude for giving leadership to support Sri Lanka to overcome the difficulties faced during the economic crisis. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe also represented Sri Lanka at the G24 meeting on securing sustainable and inclusive growth amidst emerging challenges. Sri Lanka is expected to unveil its restructuring blueprint by end April. Sri Lanka's Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Weerasinghe, speaking to Bloomberg in Washington, D.C., commenting on the program, said that the strategy on domestic debt optimization is expected before the end of April.
2 weeks ago, I think we made an announcement in public on a very transparent manner how we intend to make a contribution from local debt optimization, where we announced that central bank holdings of T-bills would be considered for some treatment, and in addition there will be voluntary treatment for treasury bonds that is comparable with other treatments, so that we want to make our contribution from the local side. And also in terms of our contribution, we have already made commitments with the IMF in terms of primary surpluses in the fiscal deficit, and also growth targets, inflation. All these things are our commitments. In addition, next step is to have some kind of domestic debt optimization. Then the sequencing is that after we announce that strategy, we are committed to announce our strategy by end of April. Then we will can continue the process with commercial creditors, asset bilateral creditors to make it complete.
Sri Lanka's Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Weerasinghe told Bloomberg that the country expects China to support its effort to restructure debts and help it begin repaying its obligations.
No, I hope, as they have done the right thing for Sri Lanka, giving us financing assurances last time, I think this is probably the first time China has given it that fast. Obviously, with the help of the IMF and other partners also help to share information. We hope that China would, obviously China is a country that has been helping Sri Lanka for a long time, have invested a lot. It's best interest for China and Sri Lanka both to complete this process soon, and we can get back to repaying our debt service obligations sooner the better for both China and Sri Lanka. This is what we think. China will certainly support Sri Lanka. As we already expressed in public, they want to support Sri Lanka. We are confident that China will support, as they have done in the last time also in the process.
Dr. Nandalal Weerasinghe also said the most difficult reforms have already been implemented and there is a better understanding on the reform to move out of the crisis soon.
In my view, we have done most difficult reforms already. And what we can say, obviously there are some opposition and kind of the pushback is coming from local, some of the affected parties. Now, there's a better understanding of the general public in Sri Lanka on the need of these reforms and continuation of these reforms and get out of this crisis sooner the better. I think we are confident that we will get the full support from the public, and going forward, the next step is once we complete restructuring, after that we are going to see the benefits of this program, and then only people will realize what is needed and why it's important to go through this process. This is the only way that we can recover the economy going forward.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe told Reuters that Sri Lanka's sovereign lenders have yet to inform the government how they will engage with the country to restructure its $7.1 billion of debt and whether they will form an official committee or engage in bilateral talks. He said that it's up to the creditors to decide, and Sri Lanka favours one platform as it would be easier to discuss and share information.
Sri Lanka's police has launched an investigation into the disappearance of 5 million rupees that was placed in the safe of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Talduwa said that the Central Bank personnel had filed a complaint with the Fort Police over the missing cash. He said that an investigation was launched by the Fort Police. It is reported that the Central Bank has also launched an internal investigation into the incident.
Took macaque monkeys are considered to be an endangered species. However, against this backdrop, the Sri Lankan government is considering the export of 100,000 took macaques to China.
Sri Lanka's Ministry of Agriculture has received a request from a Chinese delegation to deliver toque macaque monkeys to Chinese zoos and parks as a solution to the rising toque macaque monkey population in the island nation. As per the request, authorities of the Department of Wildlife Conservation and the Ministry of Agriculture are currently discussing the export of 100,000 toque macaques to the zoological gardens in China. Environmentalists, however, are skeptical about this move.
This request has come to the Ministry of Agriculture, which has nothing to do with these animals, because all wild animals are under the purview of the Department of Wildlife Conservation, and that department is under the Ministry of Wildlife and Forestry and not under the Ministry of Agriculture. Therefore, it is not clear why such a request has come to the Ministry of Agriculture and why they are processing it rather than directing it to the Wildlife Department. It is an endemic species, but within the context of Sri Lanka, we have to look at it not only as a species but as distinct subspecies. But if we take the whole species into consideration as one, then of course our results would be erroneous, and we will be putting some subspecies into the endangered category or the critically endangered category, or maybe some subspecies may go even extinct with other issues coming up to their survival. Any animal that needs to be exported from Sri Lanka needs a permit from the Department of Wildlife Conservation, and such permit is issued under Section 40 of the Fauna and Flora Protection Ordinance. No animal can be exported for consumption or for lab testing and similar purposes under the provisions of the Fauna and Flora Protection Ordinance.
Sri Lanka's Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaravira has noted that a committee will be appointed subject to cabinet approval to explore the legal standing on exporting toque macaque monkeys to another country. The Agriculture Ministry said that the country's monkey population crossed 3 million, and all efforts taken by the authorities to control the monkey population had failed, leading to consider the option of exporting toque macaque monkeys to China. Toque macaques, also commonly known as rilava, has been assessed for the red list of threatened species of the International Union for Conservation of Nature in 2015.
Sri Lanka has decided to import 10,000 railway tracks from China. The Ministry of Transport said that the railway tracks will be imported using a fund facility provided by the Asian Development Bank. The ministry said that the railway tracks will reach Sri Lanka by the end of May.
Sri Lanka's Transport Minister elaborated on the difficulties in funding projects in the country.
We have obtained the services of the Devalaya to renovate the bus station so that it would become a more efficient transportation centre. We will also develop the rest house to a level where SLTB can generate an additional revenue. The issue in road development is this: we have informed the world that we cannot settle our debt. Therefore, we do not receive loans from other countries. The ruling in the Hamilton Bank case was not favourable to Sri Lanka. We are trying to introduce public-private partnerships for development projects.
The Federation of University Teachers Associations, also known as FUTA, says that it will not tolerate the government's failure to address the legitimate demands of the university's academics, which has led to concerns including life threats for FUTA leaders.
The Federation of University Teachers Association, or FUTA, on the 9th of March decided to step away from academic activities, voicing their opposition towards the government's unfair tax reforms and other issues. At the same time, FUTA members stepped away from evaluating the GCE advanced level examination answer scripts. As the issues were not resolved by the state, the FUTA held a special Board of Representatives meeting to temporarily suspend the continuous strike from April 17, 2023 and resume work. It was determined that until a satisfactory conclusion is reached, the decision on the participation of university academics in the GCE advanced level evaluation will be deferred. FUTA said in a statement that it recognizes the Ministry of Education's initial dedication but believes that the support of other government officials is needed to successfully implement the proposed changes. FUTA said that it strongly disapproves of life threats on FUTA leaders and pledged to take any and all measures necessary to stop it in the future. While condemning the threatening behavior, FUTA advocates for a space where all people can feel comfortable sharing their ideas without the fear of retaliation. It added that the failure of the government to meet the demands of FUTA has had far-reaching effects on the quality of education, and FUTA holds the government solely responsible. To find a better solution, FUTA wants the government to speak to both FUTA and the Professional Trade Union Alliance. Sri Lanka's Education Ministry in a statement said that it held several rounds of discussion with FUTA over the past month and a half and noted that the solutions were provided to their issues. The Education Ministry appreciated the decision taken by FUTA to resume work and requested university teachers to engage in the evaluation of GCE advanced level answer scripts. Trade unions, media and civil activists criticized the inclusion of provisions in the anti-terrorism bill to crack down on dissent.
Because
the people no longer appreciate them, they are trying to introduce draconian legislation to suppress the people, silence the people, arrest them and even regulate the media. They are trying to terrorize the people by introducing these pieces of legislation for suppression because they want to suppress rejection. The people should not fear these groups. The people no longer fear your bullets and tear gas.
අද ජනතාව බීතියට පත් කරන්න. හැබැයි අපි කියනවා මේ දුෂ්ට කණ්ඩායම් කිසිවෙකුටත් ජනතාව නෙමේ බිය වෙන්නේ. බලාගේ වෙඩි උණ්ඩ වලට, බලාගේ කඳුළු ගෑස් වලට ඒ කිසිවකට මේ ජනතාව දැන් බියවන්නේ නැත.
අපි දන්නවා 2015 දී මානව හිමිකම් කවුන්සිලය.
In 2015, the government promised the UN Human Rights Council that the PTA will be repealed. Instead of doing so, they have decided to define a terrorist, to detain people and take away their rights. We are against such legislation.
පාලනය කරන අය මත රඳවා තබමින් මිනිස්සුගේ ජනතාවගේ නිදහස ස්වෛරී භාවය ඒ අයට තියෙන අයිතිවාසිකම් උල්ලංඝනය කිරීමට සැරසෙනවයි කියන එක තමයි අපිට කියන්නේ. එම නිසා මෙවැනි පනත්
There are no new rules and regulations for this act. The fact that new rules and regulations are coming to this is not acceptable. This needs to be clarified. If trade unions take action within this act, they can be arrested, property can be confiscated, strikes can be banned. The law is still in place. If the President gazettes the Essential Service Order under the Public Security Act, the trade union action can be banned even now. Action can be taken to arrest the leader. The members can also be arrested. Property can also be confiscated.
It appears that Sagara Karyavasam does not have faith in the anti-terrorism bill presented by the Justice Minister. They have no faith in that bill. They are not sure of what will happen. They want the nation to accept it. It appears that Range Bandara and Ranil Wickremesinghe want this act. The SLPP is also saying that they will not be involved in it.
Ranil Wickremesinghe විතරයි දෝ කියන ප්‍රශ්නේ අපිට බරපතල පැන්නගෙන. අන්තිම වෙනකොට පොදු පෙනුමක් කියනවා අපි නෙමෙයි මේ වැඩේ කරේ. අපි නෙමෙයි ඒක කරන්නේ.
එක පැත්තකින් මැතිවරණ සිටීම හකුලන්න.
On one hand, they are talented at distorting the election map, and on the other hand, they are implementing another program to suppress the people. All these acts, including the Anti-Terrorism Act and the Act to create a broadcasting authority, are destroying the people's rights. Democracy is being destroyed. Human rights are violated. We have to fight against this. We suggest that we all come together to defeat this anti-democratic, dictatorial one-man rule regardless of race, religion, caste, class and party.
එක මිටට ශක්තිමත්ව ගොනු වෙලා මේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍ර විරෝධී
ඒකාධිපති ආඥාදායක ඒක පුද්ගල පාලනය පරාජය කරන්නට ඒකාධිපතිත්වය පරාජය කරන්නට අපි හැමෝම එකතු වෙමු කියලා යෝජනා කරනවා.
President's Counsel M.A. Sumandiran, who is also the spokesperson for the Tamil National Alliance, commented on the delay in conducting the local government election.
Yesterday, the Election Commission has announced yet again that the local government elections are being postponed. This is the second time such announcement has come. It was initially to be held on the 9th of March, but the Election Commission postponed it to 25th of April. Now, even worse, it has been postponed without even a date being specified. This is a serious blow to democracy in this country because periodic elections are fundamental to a functioning democracy. This is playing with the sovereignty of the people, be it local government elections, be it provincial council elections, or parliamentary elections, or even a presidential election. All of that must happen in due time. The provincial council elections have been delayed for several years now. So we require the government to immediately remove that legal snag. I have presented private members' bill yet again, and the provincial council elections must be held. And the local government elections, which have already been announced and not being held only due to the fact that the treasury is refusing to release funds, also must be held. So our demand is that the government, without giving excuses, must immediately hold all the due elections, provincial council elections and the local government elections.
The Sinhala and Tamil New Year will dawn in exactly 2 more days, and Sri Lankans are all geared up to welcome the new beginning despite obstacles and challenges.
The Sinhala and Tamil New Year, colloquially referred to as the Sinhala and Tamil Alutaurudu, is one of the most anticipated festivals in Sri Lanka. The festival is celebrated when the sun moves from Pisces to Aries, marking the end of the harvesting season. The auspicious time, or the Punya Kala, will dawn at 8:45 am on Friday the 14th of April, and the New Year will dawn at 2:59 pm.
Our ancestors followed the moon and the sun for their activities. That is how the auspicious times were born. Bak is the month of prosperity. The new year dawns with the sun moving from Pisces to Aries. With the introduction of the Western calendar, there were certain issues.
නමුත් පසු කාලීනව මේ ජනවාරි පෙබරවාරි මාස ක්‍රමයේ ඇතුල් වීම නිසා යම්කිසි ගැටලුකාරී තත්ත්වයකට ඇති වුණා.
This time around, Sri Lankans can be seen gearing up to welcome the new year.
දැන් සාමාන්‍ය විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා. පහුගියදා තිබෙම නැහැ. ගොඩක් දෙනෙකුට ඇවිල්ලා බඩු බලනවා මේ බැලුවට ගන්න විදියක් නැහැ. මොකද මේ සල්ලි නැහැනේ. 4ක් ගන්න එන එකට ගන්න 2යි. ගිය පාර 350 තිබිච්ච එක 950යි. සල්ලි නැහැ මිනිසුන් ගාව. පඩි වැඩි උන්නේ නැහැනේ.
සල්ලි තියෙන නම් කවදත් අවුරුදු ගන්න පුළුවන්නේ.
එළවලු අද ගොඩක් මිල වැඩි වුණා. ගිය පාර සාපේක්ෂව 150කින් විතර මිල ඉහළ ගිහිල්ලා තිනවා අද.
The Sri Lanka Transport Board has also prepared a special bus service for the new year.
We prepared a special transport service for the people leaving Colombo from the 8th to the 13th. SLTB depots also prepared an additional 300 buses. This service will operate from the central bus stand in Petta. Further, we have deployed our services to the Makumbura, Kadawata and Kadula facilities.
මාගුඹුර පර්යන්තය කඩවත සහ කඩුවෙල පර්යන්ත විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි වැඩිපුර ජනතාවක් අධිවේගී මාර්ගය භාවිත කරන්න පැමිණෙන්නේ ඒ පර්යන්තවලට.
හෙට දිනේ විශේෂයෙන්ම කියන්න ඕන 50%ක.
We can operate 50% of the fleet. Only limited long distance buses will operate on the 14th. I guess we could say that buses will not operate at all on that day. 25% of the fleet will operate on the 15th of April.
අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පෞද්ගලික බස් ධාවනය කිරීම සාමාන්‍ය කරන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කිව්වොත් තමයි වඩා වැදගත්. කෙසේ වෙතත් අපි 15 වෙනිදා තවත් බස් 125ක් වගේ ප්‍රමාණයක් ධාවනය කරන්න කටයුතු.
Sri Lanka Railways also said that a special train service will be in place for the new year. Deputy General Manager of Railways, MJ Indipolage, told News First that special services will be provided to those heading to their hometowns for the new year.
The All Ceylon Restaurant Owners Association warned that a business mafia was in operation during the festive season.
The egg crisis plagued the country for months. When the new year dawns, the people will be affected. This situation was created to incite fear. Eggs were imported and only 300,000 eggs were given to the bakeries. What happened to the remaining 1.8 million eggs? This is the work of the business mafia. Their future depends on the commissions they make. The price of an egg is similar to a fate of plantains. A hand of kolikuttu was sold for 280 rupees and is now 650 rupees. They are adding various chemicals to the fruits. This business mafia operates during the festive season. They earn a sum of money that they use for their fixed deposits during this festive season.
The Consumer Affairs Authority is conducting raids across the country to trace traders who sell eggs at exorbitant prices. The CAA seized a stock of eggs that were concealed to be sold for a high price during a raid conducted in Mariakade, Colombo. The CAA decided to sell 150,000 eggs for 44 rupees to consumers moments after the raid.
The Consumer Authority classified eggs as essential products. Also, when a control price has been issued, they cannot be stockpiled. All the consumers are requested to speak up. Everyone is requested to inform the Customer Authority's hotline number 1977 or the emergency raid unit run under the Director General about people selling goods at higher prices. As per the existing price controls, a white egg is 44 rupees and a brown egg is 46 rupees. No businessman is allowed to sell eggs above 44 rupees.
A group of officers from the Consumer Service Authority and the Police Special Task Force raided a Hambantota warehouse where eggs were sold at high prices.
There was a special complaint that eggs are being sold at high prices here. The Special Task Force, along with the Consumer Affairs Authority, raided this location. Retailers are summoned and eggs are sold at high prices. We will file a case with the Hambantota Magistrates Court.
The entire country is awaiting eagerly to welcome the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Yet, there are many who are struggling to make ends meet. Gammadda earlier today reached out to these families to support them. Sri Lanka's economic crisis has deprived many families from having 3 meals a day. Aware of their plight, Gammadda stepped in to help in every way possible. For the 5th day, Gammadda distributed dry ration packs to families. This project, which concluded today, aimed to provide dry ration packs to more than 1,000 selected families across Sri Lanka. Families for this project were selected based on several criteria approved by respective divisional secretariats in coordination with Grama Niladhari officers. Today, Gammadda visited Kakirawa, Matara, Gaul, Deyandara, Abanpola, Jaffna, Mulathiyu, Kilinochchi, Battikaloa, Nuwareliya, Bandarawela, Polonnaruwa, Kuliapitiya and Rattota. Gammadda's true strength is with the people. While enhancing our portfolio of rural development projects, Gammadda stands firm in its resolve on addressing the starvation of the people. One of Russia's most active volcanoes erupted on the far eastern Kamchatka Peninsula on Tuesday, shooting a vast cloud of ash far into the sky that smothered villages in drifts of grey volcanic dust and triggered an aviation warning.
The Shivuluk volcano erupted just after midnight and reached a crescendo about 6 hours later, spewing out an ash cloud over an area of 108,000 square kilometers. Lava flows tumbled from the volcano, melting snow and prompting a warning of mud flows along a nearby highway, while villagers were carpeted in drifts of grey ash as deep as 8.5 centimeters, the deepest in 60 years. Pictures showed the cloud billowing over the forests and rivers of the far east and of villages covered in ash. The ash reached 20 kilometers high. The ash cloud moved westwards and there was a very strong fall of ash on nearby villagers. There were no immediate reports of casualties, though scientists said the volcano was still erupting 15 hours after the start of the eruption.
Sri Lanka Cricket announced the squad for the first test against Ireland in Galle. Dibut Karunaratne will captain the Sri Lanka team against Ireland in the first test at the Galle International Cricket Stadium. The team also includes Kusal Mendis, Angelo Matthews, Dinesh Chandimal and Dhananjay De Silva. In addition, Nishan Madhushankar, Dushan Hemantha and Milan Ratnayaka are expected to make their debuts in the series. Oshada Fernando, Niroshan Dikwella and Chamika Karunaratne, who played in the Test series in New Zealand, have been dropped for the series against Ireland. They were replaced by Sadira Samaravikrama, Lasith Tambuldeniya and Dushan Hemantha. The first test of the two-match series will be played from the 16th to the 20th of April 2023. And that's a wrap of primetime news for tonight. However, stay tuned. TV One and News First as Face the Nation is up next. For the News First team, I'm Jayama Ratnayaka. Take care and good night.